So, Michelle.
So an interesting thing happened.
Yes, what?
Someone said that Sweden had raised their terror threat.
Oh.
And I was like, Sweden?
Yes.
I feel like it's just like a friendly little country. Everyone's really lovely and good looking.
Totally.
And apparently, it's at its highest point ever.
Yes. Now, here's the interesting thing. You brought this up with me.
I know, because I was like, oh my God, Sweden.
David, Sweden, what's going on?
Yeah.
And thank you very much for letting me spend a few hours in my blanket fort going,
You love it.
"Whoa."
You love it.
Oh, yeah, I really do. This is a really good topic, right? Because
Yep.
it's not just the Sweden thing, but also the whole thing around travel arrangements.
Yes, which
and
is what I wanted
advisories.
to look into because we'll get into it a little later, but
Yep.
I also wanted to, I've got a point to make about the US.
Ooh, you've got a
Yes.
point to make about the US. Oh, I'm looking forward to this one. This is
Okay,
going to be fun.
Great. You're listening to I Spied, the travel advisory of Australian intelligence.
I Spied warns you not to travel to I Spy. It's very dangerous in here. Michelle's about to throw something at me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're annoying.
I shouldn't have burnt that bra.
You shouldn't even be here.
I shouldn't be wearing a bra, and I should have taken it off before I burnt it as well.
Hello and welcome to I Spy. My name's Michelle Stevenson. I'm here with David Callan. Look, I have to be honest, we're on the home straight. We're going to take a 2-week break.
And we're going to take some time off, guys.
Yeah, I'm tired.
We love you, but, we're sick of you. It's
And-
like you're like children.
Yeah, well, to be honest, David liked a child.
I am,
I've been
yeah.
sitting here opposite him for 3 years almost. We haven't had a break, so we're going to take 2 weeks off. I'm going to hit the slopes.
I'm going to play with Lego. No, actually, I'm actually spending a lot of time researching because, and we'll do this at the end of the show, we're going to have a shout out to the
Yeah, we're going to do a little mailbag.
little mailbag because some of you have given me some assignments.
I love it.
Oh boy, am I going to have some fun in the blanket fort the next 2
I
weeks.
love that you get given assignments. So we'll touch on to a little bit of our mailbag that we've been getting across our Twitter feed or X feed at I Spied Podcast.
And by the way, I think we're going to have to get into an Instagram feed and probably a Facebook feed and probably a Threads feed.
Threads,
And I'll
we
do
need
that
all.
over the next 2 weeks while I'm in the blanket fort,
Okay.
simply because there are some people out there that can't talk to us because they don't want to go into that filthy sewer that we call X.
X, also known as the grey zone.
The grey zone.
Okay, anyway, let's get to it. We're going to talk about threat levels and how they come about and who decides them. And I think the thing for me was like when I saw Sweden had raised theirs, and there's been a bit going on at Sweden, which is stuff that we hadn't really, I hadn't really heard a lot about.
No, let's get down to it.
Let's do it.
First things first, we're
Yeah.
talking about travel advisories, right?
Yes.
So, and the thing you want to go on to is Smart Traveller. That's where if you're traveling anywhere in
Yeah.
the world, go in, put the name of the country in,
Yep.
and it will tell you whether you should go there or not. And it goes from do not travel to, pack your bag, have a great
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Don't forget to buy some booze on the way in or out, right? So it's assessment of the risk to Australians travelling into those countries.
Yep.
Right? And it's based on credible intelligence. ASIO and the National Threat Assessment Centre have a lot to do with it, right? So they'll be sort of like going, oh, you better be careful if you go to Mali. And also things like they look at civil unrest, political situation,
Yeah.
natural disasters. Would you want to go to Maui right now? Probably not.
Well, you wouldn't. And
Right.
they're actually asking no tourists to come unless you're Paris Hilton,
Yep.
who decided to take a holiday.
Good on you, Paris.
I know,
Good
just
on you.
50 Ks away from the devastated town.
Nice.
Anyway.
Did you bring any food with you?
No,
Water? No,
no.
of course not. Now, they're published by DFAT, right,
Yep.
which makes sense, and they include advice on safety, health, local laws to look out
Yeah.
for, local contacts in case you get into trouble.
Yes.
Like, interestingly enough, if you look at Ukraine in Smartwatch or in Smart Traveller, it says, please don't come, and if you're here, please go home, right?
Yeah.
So someone like our good friend of the podcast, Misha, he would be going, yeah, I know that's the thing, but I'm a journalist, I'm travelling
Yes.
there anyway. But also it says, we can't get you out if you get into trouble.
Yeah.
And if you need our help, you've got to come to Poland to get it. And it's under your own steam. So if you need to get out of there, it's on you, not us.
Yeah, so basically it's enter at your own risk.
Yeah. Now, they get this information not just from ASIO and the National Threat Assessment Centre. They get it from Five Eyes, right?
Yeah.
So all of our intelligence guys, other departments, the Department of Health may advise on it, analysis of problems that travellers have faced, and general feedback from travellers. If you get back from, Libya and say, I got shot at on the road, we're going to go, well, we told you not to go there, you idiot.
So say we've raised the threat level for Sweden. That means that every other country would have done the same, I would imagine. Or no.
Maybe, maybe not. It really
Okay.
depends on whether, some countries may not even
Or
do
are we
it.
just optimistically cautious?
We are optimistically cautious. It's one of the things our government is very good at. I mean, a great example of it is a no travel to Iran. Right?
Yes.
So don't go to, they say don't travel to Iran, and if you're there, please consider leaving.
Iran away.
Right, Iran away, please. Because there is a high risk of you being arbitrarily detained or arrested.
Which no one wants.
But
Not fun.
this is the thing. It's
Unless you're trying to get away from your family.
Yep. And also there's protests, right?
Yeah.
The protests are still ongoing. France is currently a high-risk nation because of the protests going on there.
Yes.
South Africa is a high-risk nation because of crime. Jamaica is a high-risk nation because of crime. Also South Africa because it's had strikes going on and protests. So all of these different things going on create this one. Now, Sweden's a very interesting case. And Denmark, funnily enough, Denmark is kind of involved, but it hasn't had its travel advisory raised.
Yeah, because the Swedish Security Service actually announced that their terror threat level was at its highest point since the system had been in use.
Correct.
And it's now set to high or a level 4. So I think other countries have kind of gone, well, okay, maybe we need to take a look at this.
Now, this all comes down to a little case of a bad
Quran burning.
Quran burning. There's been a spate of Quran burnings, mainly by one guy.
And it's weird because I'm like, are we still angry at Muslims and Islam? Like, I don't understand why this is still a thing.
Okay, the guy's name is Salwan Momika, right?
Let me guess, he's a far right.
Wait for it. You're going to love this story.
Go.
And there's also another guy, Salwan Najem, right?
Yep.
They both burned copies of they burned it outside a copy of the Quran outside the Royal Palace in Stockholm. They burnt one outside the biggest mosque in Stockholm. He took one, put ham in the Quran, and then jumped up and down on it.
Oh my God! I'm surprised he's not worried for his own life.
Yeah, here's the interesting thing. He's kicked a Quran around the outside of the Iraqi
Look what they
embassy.
did to Salman Rushdie.
Yep.
You'll get a fatwa.
That was one of the things one of my friends said to me when I was catching up with him over dinner last night. He said, why don't you see how far you can push your podcast until you get a fatwa?
No.
And my reaction was, I really don't want that.
I know. Unsubscribe.
I'd like to keep my body attached to my soul. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, the whole thing is this guy, Salwan Momika, is a former, and it's a really weird thing, he's a former Iraqi militia leader. He's from Iraq. He's an Iraqi. He's a self-professed atheist, but he was also, the militia he was on was called, I can't remember the name of it, but they fought Daesh and they were an extreme Christian militia.
Okay, there's a lot going on here.
So he's an he was working with extreme Christians.
Now he's an atheist.
He's an atheist.
And he hates Islam.
Now, and he's trying to protect Sweden from Islam. Now, he first arrived in Sweden.
But does Sweden know that they need protecting?
Well, we haven't finished yet. This is where the story gets really interesting. Right, that's right. He was in the Imam Ali brigades.
Okay.
And when he burnt the Quran, he burnt it on the first day of Eid al-Adha, which is a huge Islamic holiday.
Yeah.
Right. So the guy's, he knows what he's doing. Yeah. This is a very concerted and very conscientious effort to cause trouble.
Yep.
Now, he arrived in Sweden in 2018. He was declared a refugee in 2021. As normal, it takes a while for it to happen. A lot of people believe this is an attempt to guarantee his asylum. Because what he's basically doing is he's making it impossible for Sweden to go, mate.
Because he'll be like, but they'll kill me.
They'll kill me. They'll fatwa me. I'll put on a little bit of fatwa.
Pretty interesting way to go about it.
Does this burning Quran make me look fatwa? Right? So the whole thing is
very good.
Thank you very much. I'll take it out.
We're going out on a high.
We are. Now, one of the interesting things about this is the political machinations that have gone around behind it from other people. So there have, of course, been protests. There's been a lot of protests. Now, Sweden, everyone would go, well, why doesn't Sweden just arrest this guy and sit him down? He was actually allowed to do it. A court said we cannot stop him from doing it.
Why?
Because it is his right to free speech.
Well, are they American now? What's going on there? I mean, we can't even do a Nazi salute here.
Now, in Victoria. Or is it all over now?
Well, I'm pretty sure they're federalising.
I think they're federalising anti-Nazi. But interestingly enough, Sweden and Denmark's involved because a guy in Denmark who's associated with Momika has also burnt, but I think the Quran he burnt in Sweden, and also I think the other thing is he's a member of a far right.
Okay.
Called the Denmarki Patrioti or whatever.
Or the Keep Islam Away.
Yeah, just I'm an angry white guy.
Yeah.
However you say that in Danish. Right. So the whole thing is both countries had blasphemy laws.
Yeah.
Now they've both dropped the blasphemy laws. Sweden dropped theirs in 1970. Denmark dropped theirs, I think it was in the 2000s. But what's interesting is you cannot burn a flag in either country. Another country's flag. Flag burning is out, but Quran burning is okay. Flag burning is a race-based
So can you burn the Bible?
Well, yeah, you should be able to.
I just think the whole thing is terrible. Like, just stop.
Well, the whole thing is it's desecration. It's desecration
Yes.
of what's regarded as a holy item.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, you can burn a Bible and most people would go, oh, well, that's an interesting way to start your barbecue. But, and again, this is a thing that's really important. We've got to remember with anything that's an extremist act,
Yeah.
the extremist fringes are very small.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
They
So
are.
if you look at, like, when people go, oh, you know, Islam in Australia is going crazy. 2% of the religious population in Australia is Muslim, right? Out of that 2%, only 2% of that 2% would be on the extreme, if 2% of
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, look
So
what
it's a tiny number.
Look what happened in Paris with, like, you know, the company doing the cartoon
Charlie
of
Hebdo.
of Muhammad.
Je suis Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah.
And this is something that's happened in Sweden as well. Recently there was, when I say recently, probably in the last 5 years, there was a newspaper that published caricatures of Muhammad. And funnily enough, Sweden went, might just crank up the anti-terrorism threat level a little, but it wasn't like cranked up to the max. The thing is, it's caused them political problems, right? One of the extreme Islamic leaders in Iraq, Muqtada al-Sadr, is currently running for parliament. There's an election this year. So he used it. He's led protests outside the Swedish embassy in Baghdad.
Yep.
The Iraqi prime minister has booted the Swedish ambassador for this terrible insult to Islam, right? So all of these people have been using it. Interestingly enough, Turkey and Erdogan in Turkey used it to great effect to hold Sweden out of NATO.
Right.
So NATO and Finland both applied to join NATO after Russia went into Ukraine. So what happened is Erdogan basically sat there and went, okay, I'm not going to sign off on this. And if one member says no, they don't get in. So we held off and held off and held off until what happened was he capitulated once he was given concessions for arms deals.
Yep.
There were certain arms that they weren't selling to Turkey. And the other thing, he got a guarantee from both Finland and from Sweden that they will stop supporting Kurdish militants in their countries. Right? So this is the thing that the problem is Sweden has got this problem where not only is it causing internal problems, it's causing external problems as well. And as their foreign minister said, we are in an incredible moment of strife in Europe. We don't need this shit right now. That's not what he said. I mean, he would have said shit in Swedish. But this is the whole thing. It's causing major problems for Sweden because they can't get anything political done.
Yeah, and I think that maybe they need to bring back those blasphemy laws just to make it a little easier. Because also, you know, they're in peak travel season and people will be a little more trepidatious about going.
Interestingly enough about that, what I find interesting when people go, oh, we're very trepidatious, I do question the number of people that use something like Smart Traveller.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what I wanted to bring up because, you know, we talk about Smart Traveller and the threat levels and stuff like that, but when you look at the US, right, if you go on the Smart Traveller advice, their threat level is
non-existent.
No, exactly.
There is no threat level.
But the amount of mass shootings and gun violence and rhetoric against LGBTQI, like, it's really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like, more so than any other country. But so all you get if you get on the Smart Traveller website and you go down and they have extra sections, terrorism and such. You go down to violent crime. It does say guns, gun violence and crime are more prevalent in the US than in Australia.
Yep.
And then it goes mass shootings, active shooter events and hate crimes occur, including violent incidents directed towards LGBTI plus community.
Yep.
And individual groups from diverse cultural, linguistic, ethnic and religious backgrounds. Although tourists are rarely targeted, there's always a risk of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well,
all right, thanks, Smart Traveller. But my question is, with the amount of gun violence, why is there no higher threat level on the US?
Well, we kind of covered that a couple of episodes ago as the relationship between Australia and the US.
Yeah.
Well, look, if you look up the UK, it's the same. There's nothing there, right? It's literally there is no threat level.
Yeah.
That's the point. We're not going to turn around to our closest allies and go, oh, by the way, guys, don't visit. You look at Israel, Palestine, it's use extreme caution because it is, tacitly, it's a war zone.
Yeah.
All right. So Lebanon is like, guys, I think the level is review your need to travel.
Yeah.
Because Lebanon is in an economic crisis. There are still terrorist attacks going on in there. And it's all tit for tat kind of stuff. It's all very small, chump change terrorism, really, which is a terrible way to describe it, of course. But the whole thing is with the United States, we're not going to turn around to our number one ally and go, oh, yeah, by the way, don't go there because you might get shot.
Basically all we've said is like, don't worry, Americans are killing Americans. You should be fine.
Yeah, you'll be right. Just like I remember my wife and I were in San Francisco. I wanted to buy, they're called 1911.
I mean, San Francisco's a whole another kettle of fish at the moment as well.
Yeah. Now, we were there. This was, God, it'd be 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We were there 10 years ago. We were walking down to go to this place called Stompers Boots because I was buying a pair of US paratrooper boots. They're awesome. They're
It sounds like a bar, Romper Stomper.
Yeah, Romper Stomper. We're walking down and my wife just stopped and went, can we get into a taxi, please? And I went, what's your problem? Now, I'm a very large person, right?
Yeah.
I'm a very tall, fairly large guy, right? So I don't really often think about myself under threat. And then she went, just look around. And we looked around and it was fentanyl central. It was like all of these, like
zombies. They're like zombies.
Zombies everywhere, but also guys just sitting there, you know, with a 38 special in his lap handing out fentanyl. It was like, yeah, good call, honey. Let's get into a cab.
Yeah.
Right. So but that's in any place in the world. You can walk down the wrong street.
Yeah. Well, I remember like when I was in Florida, in Tampa for the 2000 New Year's Eve. Yes. It was a fair while ago. And I was with my partner at the time. And, you know, we'd done the festivities. And the only way, I mean, this is before Ubers. So we decided to walk back to our hotel.
Yeah.
And we're just walking and we're just taking our time. And there's this group of boys just power walking past us. And we're like, hey, guys, what's the rush? And they're like, have you seen where we are? And we're like, is it dangerous? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to die.
And then we get back to the hotel and the reception's like, you walked back? And we're like, yep. And they're like, it's so dangerous. And you're like, sometimes as Australians, you have no idea.
Look, we did it. My wife and I were in LA. We were driving around. We were coming back from Disneyland and we had her uncle's truck. We're taking it back. He's a fireman.
Yeah.
Right, we're taking it back to the fire station on 77. It was station 77. We're driving back. We're on the freeway and I took the wrong exit. And
this is how horror movies start.
Well, this is the thing. I take the wrong exit. I'm looking around and Tanel went, just do a U-turn, go back. And I'm like, I don't know where we are. And she went, do a U-turn. And the next thing is like, knock, knock, knock on the window.
Uh-oh.
And sure enough, the guy's wearing a red bandana or a blue bandana. I don't remember. And, you know, I wind down the window and go, g'day, mate. And he went, what the fuck are you doing here?
You're like, hey, babe.
No, I just went, oh, look, I'm totally lost, mate. I'm coming back from Disneyland. I'm looking
and
for
they're like,
station 77.
oh, aren't you cute?
But that was the thing.
Yeah.
You know, this guy comes out of
We disarm them.
Probably a crack den. And went, you know, what are you talking to that motherfucker for? And he went, he's an Australian. He doesn't know where he is. And it's like, we got directions.
And robbed.
Yeah, armed guard. You know.
Anyway, so
there is that. You can wind up on the wrong street. With America, though, most Australians are going to touristy spots. Right?
Yeah.
We're not.
No, look, I know, but I think just the prevalence of gun violence and gun ownership and anti-LGBTQI rhetoric, you would think that at some point they'd have a higher warning.
You would, but again, it comes down to that fact is we are not going to insult our number one ally.
Yeah, it's
right?
like go, but you may get shot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about. Those bullets are not meant for you.
They're
and if
not meant for you.
It's not on purpose.
It's our bad.
It's
Sorry.
not personal.
Okay, so are we done on this?
We are done on. Let me check. Yeah, just to reiterate, the big thing with Sweden is their big problem is basically their big fear is we really don't need terrorism while there is a major war going on next door.
Yeah, I mean their big thing is don't try the Swedish meatballs.
Yeah, don't try Swedish meatballs, but also don't forget this thing is once you've got a combat zone very close to your country, everything gets a little porous and things start to slip
like the
through.
Quran burning has nothing to do with Ukraine.
No, it has nothing to do with Ukraine, but that can be used as a corridor to get material. Not so much personnel, but material. Get actual like weapons into a country for a terrorist incident. So that would be their main concern.
Okay, let's open the mailbag.
The mailbag. Now, look, this is just, I just got to say.
I know. I love our listeners.
This is shout out to some of our people on Twitter that have been following us. And if you need to shout out to us on Twitter, it's at iSpied Podcast.
At iSpied Podcast.
There you go. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Minerva.
Minerva. Yep.
Right. Minerva is probably our staunchest critic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she does not
fierce. She's fierce.
Fierce, does not pull punches.
Okay.
She will call it when she thinks we're wrong. Okay. And
and when were we wrong? I mean, I feel like you're wrong quite a bit.
Quite a lot. Yeah, I am. She actually called us out. We were talking about the double tap that the Russians are using. They're sending a missile in.
Yeah.
Yep.
You...
Well, she basically went, the Americans have been doing that since before Syria. And it's like she's got basically the Americans have been throwing drones in and then waiting 40 minutes and throwing another drone into the same spot.
Makes sense.
And I just went, part of me, of course, every time someone
You get
criticizes me,
defensive?
I go, hey.
Don't call me out.
Hey, what? And then I went, no, this is right.
Yeah.
This is how we
Yep.
learn.
Yep.
If we kill him, he won't learn nothing. So the whole thing was, again, Minerva,
Yes.
thank you. Do not stop calling me out.
No,
if I get
please
it
call
wrong.
him out because I try and he just doesn't listen.
My fingers go in my
Yes.
ears and la, 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 and I
Yes,
can't hear a thing.
I'm like, I think you're wrong there.
So thanks for keeping us honest. Matt Fitz, thank
Mm-hmm.
you. He gave me a list of 10 books I have to read.
Oh, great. I love that. You need homework.
I just need more homework.
You do.
All right. Now, I want to call out Nikki P.
Okay, Nikki P.
Nikki P sent me this, just a question.
Okay.
David, did Australia ever do anything with propaganda during the Cold War?
Ooh, interesting.
Oh, thank you very much, Nikki. I'm down a massive well.
Yeah.
I actually have to travel to Canberra to the Museum of Democracy, the old Parliament House, because
fun.
they had an art exhibition, which of course I missed, but it's all about propaganda in
Amazing.
the Cold War. So thank you very much for giving me a reason
You
to
got a little field trip planned.
Gotta go up and see me mum, right? Thank you, Nikki, for giving
I
me
bet
a
your
reason.
mum loves that.
She does, actually. We sit there and play with the cat and have a nice meal and have a bit of a giggle, right?
So
that's
while
great.
I'm snowboarding in New Zealand, you'll be at the Democracy.
Well, I like to call it Nordic training. And
Yeah,
by
I'll be
the way,
doing the Nordic
remember,
training.
as you're snowboarding backwards, firing an MP5,
Yes.
lean into it because it will give you a little bit of acceleration.
Yeah, that's what I need.
And of course, remember, it's always dung, 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 dung,
I
dung,
or,
as
like
you do
that's
that.
that's what I have playing as soon as I go down.
And you can't do the big brass da 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 until you go off the cliff and your Australian flag parachute opens.
Yep, done.
Dominic Ma wants us to watch The Recruit and give our critique on that, and I will do that.
Watch The Recruit.
The Recruit. It's a new thing on Netflix about a guy who.
Yes, I've seen it all.
Oh, you have?
Yes, I
Well,
did.
I will watch it and we shall discuss it. That's
I watch all of these things. The Recruit, look, it's kind of a little bit cheesy but good.
I don't mind cheesy but good.
Yeah, and they're doing a second season, but I really, really liked it.
And again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Rogue Heroes, which is on
my husband and my son loved it.
streaming on
It's
SBS,
on SBS.
and it's fantastic.
Yeah, they loved it.
I just loved it. I thought it was great.
I feel like all of our listeners would like it, and it's set to. They've got some great music in it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, brilliant music.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I'm loving about
So good.
Like the golden age of television we're living in is, my God, the music is
I know, so much
great.
better. Yep.
I just sit there with my sound hound on going, oh, what song is that? Yay.
Yeah, Rogue Heroes, definite one to
Yep.
watch. Everyone I know is so into it.
So, Stefan the nurse.
Yes,
Yeah,
I saw Stefan.
Yeah, Stefan the nurse, who just brought up another article about more spies, Russian spies in
Yes.
the UK. So I'm going to have a good look at what's going on with
The
Russian spies.
Russian spies are everywhere.
Everywhere. Look, I woke up this morning and I turned on the light in the kitchen. And
One was standing there.
3 of them scurried under the fridge.
Yeah, I know.
They're like
They're like
cockroaches. They're everywhere. You just turn them on. Oh, and under the fridge they go.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to get them out.
Yeah.
And once, if you've got one Russian spy in your house, there's probably 1,000 under
Because
the
they
cupboard.
just breed.
They're just everywhere. We've got to thank Greer Clark for exactly what we're doing right now.
What?
Greer Clark, who said, hey, you need a mailbag section. You
I
need
know.
to start talking to your listeners. And also, she has a request. Can you two stop talking over each other? It ruins the flow.
I was going to say I don't think we do.
We do.
I feel like you talk over me.
Oh, yeah. Well, totally. That was totally directed at me. I'm not an idiot.
Because sometimes I have something to say
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for David to take a breath.
Yeah.
But God damn it, he can talk for a long
I
time.
never take a breath.
You don't.
I don't.
You learned
And-
that at ASIO.
No, exactly. Don't. Yeah, if you want to get your point across, keep talking.
Yeah.
But she said all the comments are really good. Can you just hold on to them? And it's like, no, I can't. I am totally impulse control.
You are totally impulse control.
None of which.
Yeah.
Sam Mui, who's sent us some great detail about Chinese grey zone.
I love a grey zone.
Yeah, and basically taking this great photo of a Chinese Mirage being loaded up with armaments. It's like, that's why you went, oh, more grey zone stuff. And I went, that's not really grey zone. That's kinetic.
Yeah.
If they're putting armaments on. Loop disconnect because he keeps sending us photos of his collection of East German intelligence devices.
Oh my God,
which is
amazing.
fantastic. I'd like
Love
to say
that.
congratulations to Patrick.
Okay.
Patrick, who is engaged to my cousin-in-law Raya in the United States.
Okay.
I met him recently and it was great meeting him. And he also sat there and went, it's really weird actually talking to you because generally you just come out of a speaker in the car when we're
Oh,
driving
that's so
to
great that he
Arizona."
listens.
No, well, Raya listens and he's forced to listen with her. So sorry that you're forced to listen, but sucko, you're forced to listen. And finally, we cannot do a mailbag without thanking Salty the Sea Dog.
Yes.
The Salty Sea Dog, he is our number one supporter.
He is a fountain of information for us.
If you go onto our Twitter feed, he's just posted an article about that Filipino ship that's been run up on a reef in the Spratly Islands as their outpost. Basically, these guys have tetanus for breakfast.
Yep.
It is literally a rust bucket. Like, it's a really good article about what life on that thing would be like, which is horrific. It would be an awful posting. But yeah, Salty, cannot thank you enough for all the support you've shown us.
And I'm going to do a quick shout out to some of my favourite fans.
Please.
Who, Natalia and Ben, good friends of mine, but never miss an episode. They love it. And Ben is always messaging me with books that I should be reading, spy books, all of that kind of stuff. Natalia quite often will tell us if the new app isn't up. She's the one. I'll get a text message going, "Where's the new app? Why is it not up?"
It's 6 a.m. What's going on, kids?
Yeah. So Natalia and Ben, thanks for sticking with us.
And finally, Christian, you know who you are. And thank you for congratulating my wife and I for our 25th anniversary, which exactly we're celebrating. This week actually we're celebrating.
Oh, congratulations!
Tomorrow, actually. Oh
You're God. Like, is it tomorrow?
Oh my God, I better book a restaurant or something. Yeah, I do have a great wife. Her big thing is, I don't want anything. Yes.
Yeah.
I just want a dinner.
Yeah. You're going to have to do something.
Oh, I know exactly.
Especially for 25 years.
25. She's put up with me.
Okay, anyway, so we're going to take 2 weeks off.
2 weeks off, guys.
And if you're going through the back catalogues and you're just reaching us now, there is no 2 weeks off. There'll be another app.
There'll be another app.
Yep.
Yeah, and so if you've just joined us and you've like 6 months from when this is being recorded, sucko, there's no break for you. You just get more.
Yeah, and also you can probably go to Sweden now.
Yeah, Sweden's probably clear.
Yeah.
Yay, meatballs.
Okay, I can't wait to go on a holiday.
Vert to Ferk.
I mean, part of my holiday is actually 2 weeks away from you.
Yeah, well, I'm used to that.
Yeah.